5 foods you must avoid to stay skinny. Or in other words, 5 foods that make you fat. If you're in weight loss mode, end of summer, different season, when you need to get a few pounds off, these 5 must be avoided. I'm gonna walk you through the 5 foods that if you eat, the likelihood of losing weight and being skinny aren't gonna happen. So it's 5 foods that make you fat, and the research and the studies and the breakdown of what those look like. Now, there are specific things that you can be eating at specific times that are gonna completely sabotage your weight, even if you're doing everything else correctly, even if you're working out hard, you're limiting your calories. These foods, with the research, the PubMed solid studies to back up what I'm about to show you, can completely sabotage your weight efforts and add weight over time, as you're gonna see. And these are unconventional. These are the ones you don't hear about. These are the ones that are kind of behind the scenes a little bit more. They're not the obvious ones like too much sugar. That's not on the list. But number 1 is a shocker for lots that we don't pay attention to. We're not identifying. I'm gonna not only give you the studies to show you about it, but I'm also going to list out for you its hidden names, because it's got disguises that it wears. It's hiding in your food. The increase of it, the amount that we're using, has gone up an insane amount. Compared to 1950, we used around 1 million pounds in our food supply. Today, there are 300 million pounds in our food supply. So this is in so many packaged goods. Do you even know it's there? Do you know its disguised names? And do you know what it's actually doing to your body that's sabotaging your weight loss efforts and making you fat? This food makes number 5 on the list. Now, I did a search for weight loss induced just from this one ingredient that is hiding inside of your foods. And the results shocked me. Look at this. I went over there. I did the search. Look at the amount. 37 pages. 368 results showing this one ingredient, based on studies, induces weight gain, induces obesity. Just this one ingredient. So this is number 5 on my list, and this one is hidden in there. So if you search this, you come up with over 100, well over 100 different citations of how this one ingredient is damaging the body and how it's causing so much weight gain. Now, they did a huge study on this ingredient, and this was one of the most prominent ones I did on humans, because there's some animal studies I'm gonna show you today, okay? But this one was done on humans. And I wanted to walk you through this one because it's very prominent, where they looked at, 752 healthy individuals, and they walked them through this study, okay? And they were eating this ingredient. Now, the interesting part of this study is what they did is that they looked at participants who used the highest amount of this ingredient, meaning the more of it that you used, the more weight gain you experienced, okay, over the people that didn't use as much. And so they followed these people, they put it into their diet, they measured how much they were taking, and this was shocking. The adjustments, right, for this, regardless of physical activity, regardless of energy intake, the intake of this ingredient was positively related to BMI. That means your body mass index increased more and more the more you use this. And there's a direct association of being overweight, independent of physical activity and totally energy intake. Meaning, no matter how much you ate, no matter how much you moved, the more of this one ingredient you ate, the fatter you got. The likelihood of being skinny went down and down and down. We better know what this one is. If we want to be getting weight off, we better be able to identify it. What is that ingredient? MSG, monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate. Now, they did study this in animals as well. It was causing weight gain in animals regardless of food intake. That's when they went after actually studying it in humans regardless of food intake. So this one's been proven in the lab kind of all the way up the chain. Monosodium glutamate is hiding in your foods. And the numbers you heard me say earlier, 1 million pounds of MSG was used in food in 1950s. Today, it's 300 million pounds. How is this being allowed in there? Well, it's being hidden because you're getting more savvy on spotting monosodium glutamate. But here are the other names that it also goes by. If you see on a food list, glutamic acid, glutamate of any type, blank glutamate, could be monosodium, could be other ones that have glutamate behind it. Now you know you're dealing with MSG. Yeast extract, they use yeast extract to hide it. And then anything that has the word autolyzed or hydrolyzed before it. So those 5, cloak, that's its dress up, that's its incognito mode. The costume that monosodium glutamate puts on is gonna be found in those 5. 5. You've got to be watching for this. The more of it you eat, the more weight that you gain. That was number 5. Number 4, a little bit more obvious, but has to be talked about. One large study found that people who ingest this ingredient are more likely to experience weight gain than those who drink its unhealthy counterpart. So you can take something that's unhealthy, but then if you add this component to it, you gain even more weight than people that are already doing unhealthy things. So that means if you could cut out the unhealthy version and this really unhealthy version of this food, now you can really make a big difference with the waistline. What ingredient is number 4? Anything skinny, anything diet. Specifically, that study studied diet sodas compared to regular sodas. So many people drink this to get a caffeine kick in the afternoon to try to increase their energy. And they found that they were more likely to experience weight gain by drinking diet soda than if you drink the regular version. So here's your steps. Diet, never. If you have to have a soda, have the regular one. Replace it step 3 with a Zevia or something stevia sweetened, or let's cut it out completely. And you may need to take some steps to get there. Cut this habit. But diet soda, precursor when you're drinking this to cardiovascular disease and metabolic syndrome just from drinking diet sodas. So that's number 4 on the list. Number 3, surprising one here. Regular in everybody's fridge right now, but the type that you pick matters greatly. Very surprising one here. Multiple studies that I want to show you on this one, breaking down where I'm getting this. And I want to look at it for if women are consuming it, and I want to look at it if men are consuming it. We're not built the same way. Metabolisms don't work the same way. We don't have the same hormone makeup. So we do burn things up differently, especially women as they're going through more of that menopausal stage. Weight seems to stay on easily. This is one ingredient that I will show you in the studies of women at that age range are consuming the right type of, and it helps them. When you consume the wrong type of this food, it significantly hurts you. So let's go to the women's study first. And this is surrounding menopausal women. There was 19,000 women studied in a Swedish study. They were between age 40 to 55. They looked at their baseline intake of their food. They looked at body weight and height and education. They divided them all up. And what they found is there is an association between the intake of dairy products and weight change according to the type of dairy product. Now, what this study went through, dairy is that low fat, you must suffer to lose weight kind of thought. You have to trim down on the side of the fats, cut all the fats out on it. When you cut fats in foods, you add sugar. When you're getting the skim milk, you're increasing the sugar. When you're getting the low fat, no fat, sour creams, cheeses, things like that, you're adding in other unhealthy components. Those can be sabotaging your weight loss. So what this study was showing is they looked at the Swedish study. They regularly consumed at least 1 serving of full fat dairy. Full fat every day. They gained about 30% less weight than women who didn't. They looked at the intake of whole and sour and medium and low fat milk and their associated products, as well as cheese and butter. And they looked for almost 20,000 women, age 40 to 55. And that's the age a lot of women gain weight, but not a lot, but they do gain some weight, okay? And the researchers reported that a regular and consistent intake of full fat, whole milk, sour products, cheese, full fat was significantly and inversely associated with weight gain. A constant intake of at least 1 daily serving of whole and sour milk was associated with 15% less weight gain, while cheese was associated with 30% less weight gain. Want to stay skinny around the waistline? Choose the full fat options of dairy. This does not say I'm saying increase dairy, but if you're regularly consuming cheese, sour cream, and dairy products, milk, half and half, using them in things, choose the full fat option. Don't use the skim. Not the 1%, not even the 2%. Go for the full fat option. 15 to 30% reduction in the waistline and weight gain for picking the right dairy. Now, some of you might be sensitive to dairy. Some of you might need to cut out dairy altogether. You might have some things going on in your gut. Those are different biotypes for different people. We're not getting in that today. I'm just looking at those that are consistently eating dairy. If you're having it on a daily basis, they just looked at a very simple study. If they just chose the full fat, normal, closest to the way God made it version, they lost more weight. Get get your dairy wrong, you get your waistline wrong. Let's also look at men. You're not forgotten here. But for those of you that are loving, having some cheese, listen, this is me. If you're anything like me, they looked at a cohort of men over 12 years, okay? Another big study, 1,782 men, farmers and non-farmers, age 40 to 60. This is like my Iowa peeps right here. And what they were seeing is when they studied these men over a period of time, men who consumed high-fat milk, butter, and cream, the normal high-fat, full fat, were significantly less likely to become obese over a 12-year period compared to men who did not. A high intake of dairy fat was associated with a lower risk of central obesity, and a low-fat diet intake was associated with a higher risk of central obesity. The proper dairy, men, women, you can still eat some of this stuff. Not everybody, some of you need to cut it out, but we can still enjoy these things. Man or woman, shocking, fascinating. Picking the right ones is huge for the waistline. This is why I teach. Make sure you're choosing full fat. Make sure you're choosing hormone-free. We don't want any of that going into our dairy products. And if you can get it grass-fed, that's even better. When you pick those, the way God made it, those things are okay to have. You don't need to overdo it. You're not eating cheese every single meal. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you pick the right kind, you can still indulge and enjoy those. For certain protocols, we cut it out, but some really good news. Now, let's get into number two. Number two gets really into the bowels of what's going on with this technology world and big pharma crossing over with big food, and they're in the lab making our ingredients. And one of these, I would say two, it's kind of the same category, is really impacting the waistline, but they're shoving it into foods because as they strip out nutrients and as the more and more and more and more it gets processed, they're adding these chemicals in to try to make you continue to like the food even though it's so far away from food. So the main ones that I'm talking about for number two are low salt and artificial flavors. So these flavorings, I'm going to lump in salt. I'm going to lump in not so much sweeteners on this one, but the things that they put into your food to make your tongue act a certain way. Whether it's salty, whether it's savory, all these different ingredients, that those snack foods, the inside of the grocery store, these are the ones that make us fat. So they're starting to experiment with alternative and fake forms of salt. I can't make this stuff up. It just blows my mind of like, it's salt. Why are we messing with salt? But a lot of people would demonize salt, right? And it's kind of catchy of like low salt, no salt foods. Now, I would agree with processed salts. We want to be very careful of them in packaged foods. But to get around that, they still want salty flavors. So they're coming up with chemicals that replace salt, and they can still put low salt, no salt food. See what's happening here? We're driving that kind of behavior with big food. This is where I have a huge problem, especially when salt is actually needed for weight loss. In an experiment, they did this one on mice because animal study, and they found that mice burned more calories when they ate more salt. You need salt to balance fluid in your body, and it actually can curb appetite. I'm not saying to pound down excess amounts of salt. The processed salt in foods is the enemy, but when you get real salt, mined salt, electrolytes, Himalayan sea salts, I get these in my body every single day. You balance insulin, you balance the salt and potassium in your body, the electrolyte units that are going on in your system, in your cells, in your bloodstream. It actually makes you feel more satisfied. You balance water better, and it helps optimize weight loss. But if you get this wrong, you hold on to a lot of weight, and you can eat way more because your body's trying to get salt. So it's giving you cravings. If you've ever had crazy cravings for salty foods, it's needing more salt, but it's making you eat more foods as opposed to just sufficing and getting the salt in, proven by that study. Now, companies are now using pseudo flavor enhancers. These genetically modified pseudo flavor enhancers made in a laboratory are designed to activate or block our taste buds. They block the taste buds in the mouth so that you don't get sour, you don't get sweet, you get salty, or it blocks one so that you get the other. It's altering your taste buds so that you get what you're desiring to get from the foods without the actual ingredient needing to be in there. So they're just saying, fine, we don't want to deal with salt anymore, low salt, no salt. Let's move that aside. Let's put this artificial salter in our foods that's going to trick your taste buds to make it think it's eating salt, even though there's none in there. So now we've got the claims of this heart-healthy, low-salt food, but it's got this artificial flavoring / salt in there. Even though you are eating more, craving at night, snacking late on salty foods oftentimes, your body just needs some real electrolytes. And you're putting in excess empty carbs, and that thing is sufficing when you start putting chemicals in like that, thinking you're getting the salt, but the body is not getting what it needs. That's a fast track to gaining more weight. Number one. Number one. This one, I think is more important than sugar intake. This one, I think it's more important than MSG. I think it's more important than dairy. It is more important than artificial flavorings. It is more important than lectins. This is the one. If you get it wrong, you not only inflame your cells, damage your heart, cause your joints to be achy, you sabotage the mitochondria of your body, the energy producers of your body. And when those mitochondria can't work, your electron transport chain that is responsible for making your energy units, which is ATP. ATP is your energy production. I'm not just talking so that you feel a lot of energy. I'm talking so you can power fat burning in your body. When you don't have enough energy and you are grinding the mitochondrial gears of your power plants in your body, you cannot burn fat for fuel. And the thing that clogs the motors, that shuts down the power plants, that grinds the gears and forces you out of fat burning mode and into the backup sugar burning mode, which makes you crave more sugar, which makes you be a sugar burner because it's a little bit easier for the engines to run on sugar burning as opposed to the thicker, more energy demanding process of breaking down fat. Glucose can be broken. It's the number one source of energy in the body. Glucose can be broken down easy. Fat cannot be broken down as easy. It requires more ATP to do it. And the thing that shuts that down, rancid oils, the number one cause of gaining fat from food. For example, this study right here actually showed that mice fed excessive corn oil, rancid oil, seed oil, had increased caloric intake and obesity. That the more they gave them corn oil, the more they ate, it significantly added visceral fat and made their livers full of fat. Corn oil, bad seed oils. I'm talking about canola, vegetable, corn, rancid oils, soybean. These are seed oils and they destroy fat burning mode. We've got to get these things right. We've got to get this out of our diet. If we want to lose the weight, we've got to clean up the fats. Full fat dairy, cut out the fake fats. This is another study done on rats, and they were divided into different groups, receiving diets with identical proportions of calories from fat, protein, and carbohydrates, but different types of fats. The fats that you eat matter greatly on how you are going to burn fat. So the rats in the group receiving fat from safflower oil, this is going to be a rancid oil. Those rats with the safflower oil had a 12.3% increase in total body weight compared to the rats eating traditional fats. So they split them into three groups and they gave one tallow, which would just be a normal animal fat. They gave one olive oil. Okay, it's going to kind of be in betweener in here. As long as you don't heat it too much, it's going to be okay. And they gave another one safflower. So rancid oil, natural oil, as long as you don't heat it too hot, it's stable. Tallow, incredibly stable saturated fat. So it's kind of a blend of the three different types of oils. Hydrogenated oils, not healthy. Polyunsaturated fatty acids. Unsaturated fats with some saturated, kind of a mix. Full saturated. They looked at the three groups, 12.3% higher. Same amount of calories, same diet of carbohydrates and protein. Weight gain was lower in the rats fed a high proportion of the saturated fats. Now, how does that roll up and translate to humans? If you correlated a 12.3% weight gain on a human being, that would translate to 23 pounds of excess weight just by getting your fats wrong, just by not choosing the animal fat that's stable, the olive oil that's stable, by choosing the wrong seed oils and foods with those seed oils. Even if you have the same amount of calories, even if you're cutting the calories, if you're cutting the carbohydrates and trimming up the proteins, when you get the fats wrong, it's sabotaging the weight loss. Let's keep going because this is a huge topic. And one other study that I thought was super interesting, they did on rabbits, and it was another randomized control. They split them into three groups, okay? And they were given access to identical foods with only one difference. The first group of rabbits was fed unheated vegetable oil. Unheated, just straight up bad seed oil. This is where it gets crazy. The second group was fed vegetable oil that had been heated one time. So heat it up real hot, let it cool off. They're fed foods high with that. The third group was fed vegetable oil that had been heated repeatedly multiple times, exactly like what happens in a fryer. Fry the fries, don't change the oil, pull them out, do the next batch, pull them out, do the next batch. You only change the oil maybe once a day. That kind of fry. Now, I'm not knocking the fried food. foods, I'm going for the oil because you can fry foods in proper oil and they're fine. But when you reheat these bad oils, they're bad to start. They get worse when you heat them, but when you heat them and 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 you heat them again, this is why going out to eat and getting fried foods is such a big problem, because if they're not paying attention to the oil, you are completely sabotaging yourself. And so here's what they found. Everything else about their diets remained exactly the same. Their surprising outcome was that compared to the group of rabbits eating unheated oil, the group eating single heated oil gained 6% more weight. So bad oil is going to put on an extra 12% from the study before. When you heat bad oil, you're now getting an extra 6% of weight gain, and it gets worse. And the group that ate the repeatedly heated oil gained 45% more weight. Even though the rabbits eating heated oil actually consumed slightly lower levels of calories with the heated oil, they still put on 45% more weight. That is how much those bad oils, it's heavy in linoleic acid, and this is the main culprit, that these rancid oils are full of linoleic acid. It damages the mitochondria, the power systems of our body that have to generate energy, and those need coal. They need fuel to burn and to produce energy. And they like to burn glucose because it's easy to access and takes less energy to do it. But if you're trying to push them towards burning fats, you need everything to be working really smooth in there. Linoleic acid gums up the machine, shuts down the machines, and doesn't allow the body to efficiently burn fat for fuel. These are the 5 foods that sabotage your weight loss efforts. If you want to stay skinny, we need to avoid all of those. These are the foods that make us fat that people do not give enough credit to and not enough talk. I think you can cut out the sugars and the carbohydrates for a period of time, but you can't do that the rest of your life. We need to understand what healthy sugars and carbs are, but we need to pay attention to these toxins, the MSGs, the diets, the chemicals they're putting in there to trick our taste buds. Full fat, real foods that God made, and we've got to get these man-made rancid seed oils that are destroying our weight loss mechanisms. If you need help doing that, grab one of my free books. It's a great place to start. It'll break down exactly what these are. It'll give you a food list on how to get started on this so you can experience real health. Check out my other videos up next to help you out on your journey to experience real health, on losing weight, on dropping the pounds. I'll keep the info coming. I think how many of you are still consuming these rancid seed oils and you're shutting down fat-burning factories in your body, that you're still eating low-fat and no-fat dairy when you're sabotaging your weight loss efforts. You're still reaching when you do have a cheat day for a diet or a skinny option of some kind of drink you're having, and you're sabotaging your weight gain, your weight loss, and you're adding weight gain. Some of these things, MSG, how to spot it. These are big, big, big identifiers that you can learn over time to get out of the system, to fix your habits of eating. You can still eat good foods. You can still have dairy. You can still have things with oils in them. You can still have packaged goods. You got to be able to spot these major sabotagers. 5 big areas of sabotaging your fat. Share this video, help someone else out. Those 5 foods, we are going after your grocery store trip. We are going after what's on your plate. There it is, peeps. Go make it a great day. You might as well. You're never going to get it back.